All right, getting ready to start up again. Hopefully, everyone is back. I do want to reiterate that this is a lot of level setting and a lot of general topics for this first chapter because there are a lot of different aspects that we need to untangle that I still hear in the news reporting in our industry and I still hear in podcasts and whatnot. And so I'm just going over some of this stuff in order to build that bigger picture of what it is we're trying to achieve and kind of where we're coming from. And on that note, I will talk about challenges that we face as SOC analysts. Well, one challenge we face is by definition, we are always trying to improve, right? There is always a part of this process, identify, plan, execute, review. That is the continuous improvement process. And we feed in, but by and large, in our day to day, we focus on the execute. But, as teams, we need to look at the bigger picture. In particular, some of the, reviewing and then planning new stuff. For example, we will need to decide what to watch, especially with the incidents feature. This can make every individual human more efficient and effective, but we may also need to decide that some particular systems or applications or some specific network segments. For example, when I work as a SOC analyst, there are some network segments, and my situation is a little odd, but I have network segments where engineers and QA engineers are explicitly running exploits. And, I had to decide, all right, so I can't really watch that and jump on every element because they're doing that on purpose. And different organizations are going to have different things like that, right? Also, we have to be aware there may be some kind of legal requirements to protect private data. We're not allowed to watch by law. So part of deciding what to watch, I refer you to the detections at stellarcyber.ai. This is available through the documentation. I'm going to turn off my annotations just for a second, and I'm going to go into the knowledge base home, our documentation. In terms of organizations I've been at, this has been an amazing resource. This has been, I am quite frankly astounded. Let's look for index, and you will see a list of index definitions and details. And right up here, an interactive tool, also the link that'll be in the PDF. But you can look at the different, types of sensors and what can provide you the kind of alerts you're interested in. I will probably tell this joke again in the class, but I am frequently asked for best practices, but the reality is because every organization is a little bit different. The best I can do is pretty good practices. What is the best practice? Well, that depends on your threat model, right? Economists, lawyers, and security engineers. We will have tuning we'll want to do, perhaps on our Windows servers. I know of a customer who they have a very rigorous set of window event IDs that they have developed, and with a great deal of effort and a lot of research, these are the ones that matter for that particular customer, and these other ones we are not going to ingest. Or perhaps traffic filters. The classic example is the connections to your backup server. Quite frankly, you're probably not going to notice with the flood of traffic from every workstation on a network backing up to the backup server a little weird thing. So perhaps it makes sense to filter out that network traffic and try and focus on some other way on that port 5555. Likewise, log filters. If you've been in the 101, you know my story of there was a heartbeat message coming from a firewall. And the weird thing was it did not have a destination IP address. But I also knew from that product that if the heartbeat failed, then I would get a different log message. And so I filter out that traffic from that firewall because telling me that the heartbeat's working, I'm going to go look for the heartbeat failed. And this reduced my ingestion. So it does require a significant degree of domain specific knowledge, also of your organization, just to feed it back to the overall process. We will need to run through this process for our own organization. We have to look at our business environment, what laws we have to deal with, because even within an individual country, sometimes different regions are different. There are a number of technical challenges. Timestamps have been a bane in our heel. I know I'm mixing my metaphors. What timestamp to use? Recommendation, use network time protocol across your organization. And I personally suggest setting everything to UTC so at least there'll be consistency. And I know within our user interface, UTC times are transformed into a local time based on the browser. Now, the other way we're dealing with this challenge within Stellar Cyber is we are recording different timestamps, such as the time coming from the system, and there can sometimes be different depending on the very specific vendor inputting and after parsing. We also have a write time. I think within the last 3 months, there's been another one added to deal with some specific issues. And then you have issues with some vendors not indicating in their syslog message what time zone the message is coming in. So this has been an older problem with a very specific vendor that the messages would come in and would be 4 hours out of date, 5 hours out of date, or more, depending on where you were in the world compared to UTC. And you had to set the vendor product to a very specific time zone so that the data coming in would be comparable, even with using network time protocol. These are the kinds of thorns that are going to keep popping up and that we, as the SOC team, are going to have to collaborate with the rest of the IT department to address. Data volume, always a challenge for our type of activity. Our activity is a big data activity. We are collecting log messages. In some jurisdictions, we need to hold on to those messages for 7 years. We're not going to do anything with them. We just have to keep them in case law enforcement comes in and says, we need to see that record from 6 years, 11 months ago. And to address this issue, Stellar Cyber, we introduced cold storage. And we have very recently, and I suggest everyone read the release notes for 4.3.1 as soon as you can, and think about if you have some long period, I'm going to call that long period over a year, over 2 years, look at the new feature in 4.3.1. It will help save you money on these requirements that some of us face depending on where we are in the world. Another challenge, it does seem that every log source, those engineers decide to represent the exact same data in different formats. Right here, I give you an example of 2 firewall logs. One represents the data in a comma separated value list. And we can figure it out. We're humans, we're smart. All right, this is apparently the source. And this other vendor called it source IP and source port. So how does a SOC analyst compare the values from these 2 different fields? This is where our normalization on the network sensor comes in, that converts these 2 values into the same interflow record, which is a big part of the 101 class discussion. But I just want to mention it here. This is there. that is how we are dealing with this technical challenge of every vendor wanting to do a different thing. Some analysis challenges. Obviously, all right, everyone, yes, we are sometimes told that a product will magically solve all of our problems, but we all know that we're just going to add more data to it and wind up having alert fatigue and needing to prioritize what's coming through, right? And I think the key thing we do at Stellar Cyber to help deal with alert fatigue is the correlation effort. All right, so we're putting in the threat intelligence. You don't have to go look up, do searches. Oh, this IP address in the threat feed. Did I see? You can see what the threat intel feed told you. We have our various alert types and the advanced analytics and the incidents. All of this is about correlating the data and moving as much as possible from manual to automatic. Even something as simple as giving a picture of every host in the current search window that is communicating with some central. And this picture is useful to us as analysts. And then there's filtering on the dashboards and everything else. So some other solutions to help us deal with some of these problems. There is the XDR kill chain, which was in the 101. This is a kind of a quick review. This is our contribution to the security industry where we are aligning various alerts with the MITRE attack framework in order to help you prioritize. One prioritization we'll see in the analyst workflow is alert score. And then where is it on the tree, right? If data is being exfiltrated from our organization or data is being encrypted for ransomware right now, that is your biggest, hottest fire you need to go deal with, right? And this chain, the whole point is to help you prioritize response so that you have, as an organization, a better security posture. The kill chain stages, initial attempts. I do recommend you go into our knowledge base and take a look at understanding the kill chain. Well written. The other key idea is that we are going to start on the right and work our way backwards. Yes, the initial attempts are on the left, but the end result is on the right. So we're going to want to read backwards. Our alert types, if there is a strong interest in going over this material again, please let me know. Perhaps I extend it a little bit, but I cover this fairly extensively in the 101 class. Just here to remind you of the kinds of machine learning that we are using and also how enrichment works. And then finally, a reminder that the individual alert record and its interflow details are the evidence that you are interested in terms of determining what your initial response are. And at the top of an interflow record, at the top of an alert record, we have a summary in a very human readable format, some very specific details coming through. We also have our alert score. So this is our first line. The question often comes up, how is the alert score calculated? Well, the alert score is based on the severity, which is based on the alert type, and then modified up and down based on fidelity and threat intel. And these alerts will have details, what commands, or if it's a network, request and response. And the alerts are themselves in a JSON format or a table format to be very readable and also easily searchable. So if anyone hasn't been in the 101 class, perhaps after the main section is over, we can do a quick review of some of the key highlights in order to keep things going.